I am a master chocolatier and senior product developer for Lindt and Sprungli USA. I actually was on the fast track to study medicine, and that just didn't quite work out for me. So I sat for the MCATs multiple times, and then it tried to go in through the back door and do research and development. And kind of a long story short, I had the opportunity to travel to Switzerland, where I fell in love with confectionery. So I went and I did an apprenticeship, so a traditional apprenticeship like you would do as a student coming out of school in Switzerland. And then I got my credentials and then just worked on from there and took my love of science, which is my degree is in biological psychology. And I do have some R&D background in medicine, and turned that into a career in research and development.
That is incredible. I'm gonna start because I had my own questions. I know I'm already getting messages from the students and the teachers, but there's one that I've always wanted to know. Is it as fun as like Willy Wonka makes it to seem working with chocolate in a candy factory, or is there a whole lot of science behind it?
Well, yeah, we don't have a chocolate waterfall. Quality assurance would kill us if we tried to do some of those things, but it is a lot of fun. We say we have the best job in the world, and we really do. It's there's a lot of creativity involved. I did work as an artisan confectioner in Switzerland before moving into the technical side, and I just have a lot of passion for this job, and my colleagues are fantastic. As you saw, troubleshooting my terrible technical skills, but it's combining the artistry of confectionery with science. So yeah, a little bit of both.
That is phenomenal. So can we just jump right into the student questions?
Sure.
So we have a question from Miss Wheeler. She has a couple questions. So Miss Wheeler, you guys can ask both questions, but she's out here on the West Coast. And go ahead and you can start with your first question.
Hi, thanks so much for having us. So my first question that one of my kiddos had asked is, how many different types of chocolate do you work with?
You mean like base types of chocolate or products or all of the above?
I think just like maybe like what, milk chocolate mostly, or dark chocolate, white chocolate?
All three. So we work with milk chocolate, white chocolate, and dark chocolate. Lindt works with all three. And then we have different levels of dark chocolate. When you add more ground cocoa nibs to it, then you increase the darkness by adding more cocoa to it. So all different levels of dark, milk and white.
Okay.
And Miss Wheeler, you guys had another question?
Yes, one of my other kiddos wants to know, have you ever been on a TV show for chocolate?
I've never been like one of the competition shows. No, but I have worked with a lot of those chefs before. I did get the chance to work with Alex Guarnaschelli. I'm sure a lot of students know who she is. And I've worked with Michael Simon before. I worked at the Culinary Institute of America before and taught classes, but I've never done any kind of competition shows. It's too stressful. Too stressful. No.
So we have a question from Marie, and Marie, you should be able to unmute to ask. This is an awfully specific question. I think I know the answer to this, but Marie, okay. What would you like to ask?
Which Lindt chocolate is your favorite?
Ooh, that's a hard question to answer, Marie. It depends on the day. It depends on my mood. It depends on the weather. But I think if there was a go-to bar for me or a truffle, right now it would have to be our Excellence sea salt. I really enjoy that bar.
Oh man, that just that sounds so good.
It's really
good. So one of the kids in France wanted you to explain how much science goes into. Is there like a chemistry component? Like, would you have to have a chemistry background to work in your career?
Not necessarily. It's good to be familiar with it. Absolutely. Science is very important for what we do. The more technical aspects are taken care of by our product technologists. So what they'll do is take what I do on the bench in our research and development lab, small scale, and then they'll industrialize it. So for them, that's much more important. For me, of course, it is important to do the mathematics and understand the chemistry. For example, you have to if you add a flavor to chocolate because it's fat-based, you need an oil-soluble flavor. You wouldn't add a water-based flavor. So there are certain components of it, but not super technical, like for our technologists.
Yeah, and we had a follow-up question from Miss Gates's class in Nevada, and it also has to do kind of with the chemistry base about the structure. And they wanted to know how much science goes into the chocolate getting its shape.
Oh, that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse there. There is a lot of science involved. I don't make the chocolate per se. We have a whole group of people down in operations in the factory, and that's really their expertise, not mine. I take what they do, and we roast and grind and take it through the conching process, and that's really a different department. So I can't answer that.
There's so many different departments, and in my head you just think it's one of those things you just take for granted, where you're like, oh, chocolate, it just comes from what, but it's an entire like process to get there. We have
process, yeah.
Gabriel, and he is in Italy. Gabriel, go ahead and ask your question, my friend.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
How do you deal with such big temptation in front of your eyes every day?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't always avoid it. I eat a lot of chocolate, but one thing I have to do, kind of like in a wine profession or any other alcohol professions, you spit. I know it sounds very unglamorous, but I do. I eat small portions, and a lot of times I do have to spit, because otherwise I would lose the sensitivity of my palate, and I wouldn't be able to fit in my uniform anymore. We also have the Lindt running club. So we are especially in research and development, we're very active in quality. We are biking, we're running, we're trying to incorporate a healthy lifestyle into this very fat-based product that we have to ingest.
So, I mean, that's so interesting, Gabriel. That was a great question to kind of piggyback off that. Do you guys have? I know in wine they have sommeliers. Sommelier. Do you guys have that in chocolate, where it's like a certain level that you're at? Because I know you're a chocolatier. That's probably not something that's just handed out.
No. We do. Some people say they do have that level of expertise in chocolate. I think we all consider ourselves at the high end of our profession, in that sense, in like a equivalent to a sommelier. But we, in research and development, we don't distinguish that. It's just that I've been doing this now for a long time, over 20 years, 25 years in this particular industry. And I think it's just through experience, and I'm a Lindt master chocolatier, and that's kind of the highest threshold here in this particular aspect of the job.
Well, we could certainly all say around the world, we absolutely love your work. It's delicious.
Oh, thank you.
So one of the kids here in the States, he wants to know, how big is the factory that you guys work at?
Oh gosh, it's enormous. We have one of the biggest factories in the company. We have 1,000 people working on campus.
Wow, that is huge. And about how long does it take from when the grinding process starts to when the chocolate is packaged and done and ready to ship out?
It can usually be about a week, to where we get the beans in and roast. It just depends. Sometimes we make masses in advance and store them until it's ready for production, but we don't want to keep them that long and have the quality suffer. So usually about a week, I would say, give or take. But again, that's their job over there. I'm pointing to the factory.
I mean, it like you said, it takes a village, right?
It does, truly.
So there are, I had some questions, and I'm going to kind of like meld some of the student questions because we have so many questions here. But I just wanted to know, like, I know in Europe they have, is it true that they have like here in America, we have a certain like waxy kind of thing to preserve the chocolate versus in like Europe, or is that not a thing?
No, it's not a thing. What you're thinking of is there are different fats that you can put in chocolate that are less expensive than cocoa butter. Cocoa butter is the fat naturally occurring in the bean. It's between 52 and 54% fat. So that's what gives you the beautiful mouth feel. It's solid at room temperature, it melts at body temperature. If you start substituting other plant fats in the chocolate, it can change the chemical structure and it will change the melting process. And it also gives you that waxy impression.
Mm,
Legally, you can't put paraffin in chocolate. It's a carcinogen. You don't want to introduce that into
sure.
somebody's body, or can be. That's what a physician told me. So that's what it really is. It's just the types of fat that people are putting in their chocolate that gives it that unappealing
That's
mouthfeel.
that's definitely frowned upon, carcinogens
It
in
is.
chocolate.
Yeah, I
So
mean, you don't want anything that's not going to
yeah,
work with your own body chemistry. And I get people, raw materials are expensive, especially now with COVID and the supply chain, but we
Mhm.
don't compromise quality. We're putting cocoa butter in our
Sure.
chocolate.
I
Yep.
mean, you guys are the top of the line as far as chocolates goes.
We'd like to think so.
We think so too. That's why people jumped on this opportunity. So one of the kids wanted to know, how many pounds of chocolate do you get to work with in your capacity?
In my capacity, I work with small
Okay.
amounts. Generally, work in like I'm working on some projects in the lab after this, and so I'm working in just about a kilo per recipe, maybe half a kilo. I work in metric, so it's what is that? 2 pounds? Two 2.2 oh, 500 grams
They can Google
to
it.
to a kilo. Yeah, it's small amounts, not in tons in the lab. So it's small. You do small amounts of things. If I'm trying to make a new truffle, for example, I'll probably just make a tray of them, which is about 144, and then I'll separate them and put different fillings in them. So it's small amounts in the lab.
That's interesting. So we'll go with a couple more student questions, then we'll let you go. One of the kids wanted to know, do you ever get tired of eating chocolate?
Nope,
Never. It's a
never.
labor
No,
of love, it
it
sounds like.
is. I love chocolate. I eat chocolate every day, and I
Even on
love
the
it.
even on the weekends?
Even on, well, yes, it's
Wow.
research. It's
Wow.
research.
That's great. So before we let you go, is there any advice that you could give to these kids as they go off into the world and figure out what they want to do, whether it's to be a great chocolatier like yourself or to do something completely different? What kind of advice would you have for them?
That's a fantastic question. And what I tell people, especially if they want to enter this particular career of chocolate, and now you see everything on the Food Network, the School of Chocolate on Netflix. If it's something you're really interested in, try to work maybe in the summer at a chocolate shop, and really understand, is this what you want to do? If you're passionate about chocolate, but maybe not passionate enough to make it a career where it's just a hobby, because it's not glamorous. Those types of things you see on TV, not so glamorous in reality. But if you do decide to pursue it, there are different opportunities in the culinary world. So you can you can go and get a degree as a chef or a confectioner like myself, and you can take it to research and development. You can take it to teaching as well at a culinary institute. You can work for restaurants, hotels, you can travel. So within the profession itself, there are so many possibilities. So don't just limit yourself, and really explore and see, is this what I want to do? And if you
Well,
change your mind, it's okay. Sorry, I had to add that.
you're
I
fine.
I wanted to be a physician when I was at university. I decided I didn't want to be a physician anymore, but I thought, oh my gosh, I told everybody and I've worked towards this my whole life. I'm just going to do it. But if you change your mind, you know what? That's okay too.